This is a communication that I'll read into the record. All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town of Delafield Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. If you'd all rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Administrator, you care to do a roll call?
Sure. When I state your name, state if you're present. Supervisors Dianasopoulos.
Present.
Kranik.
Present.
Michaels.
Present.
And Chairman Troy.
Present.
Thank you.
All right. Assuming there's citizens in the audience that would like to address the town board, our new procedures are that each citizen wishing to address the board will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Presentation should be directed to subjects that the town, topics that are subject to town board action and related to the town of Delafield. And it can be for items on the agenda or not on the agenda. Comments are limited in total to 30 minutes, but may be extended by the chairperson or a consensus of the board. Any comments should be directed only to the members of the town board and not the town staff, applicants, other residents, or members of the audience. Citizens shall not make comments regarding the personalities of the town board, the town staff, the applicants, or members of the audience. The board is not allowed to engage in a conversation, and neither with the citizen, neither is the staff or the applicant or any other member of the audience. You're not allowed to yield time to another citizen. Each citizen is allowed to speak once. No board member may address the board during citizen comments. So with that as our new parliamentary guidelines, is there anybody who'd like to speak? Anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on any topic?
I'd like to speak on the town farm, if I may.
Mr. Fritz.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Just give you.
Jim Ferret, N19 W29056, Gulf Ridge North. Part of the work group, I want to highlight some of the good things. We made a lot of progress in only a handful of meetings. The goal was to have a draft that would be refined based on feedback, public hearing feedback. Many people donated a lot of time, and the county invested a lot of time in this effort. Some of the good things, a park, a trail going through the property, going to Lake Country Trail, higher density push more towards the middle, away from the adjacent neighborhoods, splitting up into zones to try and help do that, having tree lines to utilize those zones to help buffer things. A lot of good things in there, more than just that. That being said, we've heard that everyone's in agreement, and I just need to come here and say we're not in agreement with many critical aspects of the draft ordinance. As Pete and I both spoke here previously, density being one of the big factors. I did some rough numbers here, pretty straightforward math. Adjacent neighborhoods right now are about 0.7 units per acre. at 152 acres, which is Thomas farmland, that would be about 100 units. We know that's today's environment, not feasible, it seems. One example scenario is before we even went to 12 units per acre, worst case scenario, we'd be at about, well, over 400 units. That's about a 400% increase compared to surrounding neighborhoods. Example 2, if we go to 12 units per acre, that was a late add-on in this discussion. If we did that just in Zone 4, that would be over 600 units on this piece of land. That's a 600% increase. Worst case scenario, which I would also believe is unlikely, but it's allowable in the ordinance as it's drafted today, 12 units per acre in zones 4 through 6, that's 900 plus units, a 900% increase in density. We've gone through lots of data examples on height. We're still not in agreement in 3-story and 47-foot maximum height. Not in agreement on allowing quarter-acre lots in zones 2 through 6. That's city lots in the town of Delafield. Not in agreement with minimum floor requirements, minimum floor area requirements. Still have a lot of feedback regarding water usage, traffic lights. I think progress has been made there, but a lot of the larger group of residents still has reservations of how are people held accountable for that. So the current draft still needs some refinement. It needs to get at least closer to the precedent set by the surrounding neighborhoods. The process needs to be followed not to just have a public hearing, but actually make adjustments based on the feedback from your residents. We are not in agreement, and additionally, please attempt to find even 10% of your residents that are in favor of this, beyond the Thomas family and some of the board members. Town of Delafield, residential, recreational, responsible, the motto before we were here, and what the residents want it to stay like in the future. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Peter Ogden, Happy Hollow Road, Pewaukee, Wisconsin. Ron, you look like you're bored. I know you've heard this a number of times, but in simple terms, you guys, Jim, myself, Kathy, Mike, we sat on this committee, right? We're the town people that sat on this committee. The rest of the people don't live here. So you made a comment the other night, Ron, that you said the committees, this is their wish, and please know, all of you guys, that's not our feeling, and we're town residents. Am I clear on that? Do you hear me, please? We're not on board with everything. And Jim pointed out to you 2 things that are really key. One is what? Steve? Density.
Sir, we're not,
Okay.
follow the rules, please, or leave the
One is
podium.
density. The residents don't want density. They just don't want it. And they don't want the size of the buildings. Mr. Barbeau made a comment at this last planning commission meeting that they want commercial up front because there's no residential along the highway. But if you look from where the town border is, right, all the way down, it's residential, except where the occupational therapy building is. So I just want to make sure you're clear that the people that did sit on this board, that were town residents, we're not completely for what's going on. And everybody we've talked with, everybody that I've talked with is not for it. They're not for it. So let me just close by saying, I was in the Thomas's shoes. I was fortunate enough to develop a piece of property right down the street called Maple Fields. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But it was a 45-acre piece of land. I had the hat on that Rob and Amy have on. I wanted to get the best, the most, the biggest density that I could, right? But I couldn't. I didn't get that. I got 5 lots in a cluster. And then 25 acres went to Waukesha Conservancy. So the story there is that the town board had the backbone to say no to the developer, who was me. I didn't like it, right? But it's what's there today. And if you look at it, it's what makes the town of Delafield a great place to live. So please, please, don't just bend over. Stand up for what you think is right. Buck stops with you guys, right? I mean, you're in control. And I get that.
All right,
in
sir,
every
that's
situation-
your 3 minutes. If you'd like to wrap it up,
Yeah,
I'll give
I
you.
get in every situation there's compromise. But just rest assured that your residents are not for what you're looking at.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Very, very brief. Both gentlemen have made similar comments to what I've been talking to Dan about and others along the line. My name is Ron Fetter, and I live on Oakton Road.
Thanks, Ron.
My printing is a little shaky. I'm
That's all
sorry. But my impression of the whole thing is that, having had some experience with this development process, is that the county has some requirements for low-income housing, high-density housing, and they wanted all the communities in the county to take some land and develop it according to those ideas. Some of it's good, some of it's not. I know of examples where this high density that you're speaking about, which is like 3 or more stories high, and 45-foot high buildings, creates an urban environment. Urban environment. This is the suburban environment we have. Just as the gentleman before me has said, these are single-family homes, a half-acre lot in most cases, and we think this beautiful piece of land should, for the majority of it, be just that, and not high-density residential use. As a count came up at numbers that I was not calculating, because I was attributing some land to Conservancy, which, you know, you could use that for open space, but you can't pack 12 units on an acre. It just looks like it's not something you want. You want to raise and elevate the standards for the community. You can't create an urban center out of something that's surrounded all by very nice homes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Alan Nepper from Brookstone Circle, from the High Point subdivision. Once again, would just like to reinforce what the other speakers have mentioned. As Jim did, I sat through the last week's meeting where the proposal was gone through actually quite in depth. It was a long meeting. I was not in any of the groups as these folks were. But I guess I had some observations. First and foremost, I'm concerned that we may be starting on a slippery slope. And by that I mean, I looked at things that were mentioned in the beginning of this discussion that would not happen. There wouldn't be any access on Glen Cove Road. That was almost sacrosanct. Well, now there will be an access to Glen Cove Road. And the slippery slope part of it is the town can't dictate where it is or how it looks or anything else. So I'm looking at the state's going to be doing this, the county's going to be doing this, the water board's going to be doing this, and all of these other entities are suddenly going to be the decision makers. I like it that you guys are the decision makers. You're here, you're listening, you're accountable. But I'm seeing this mix get much, much bigger where we can say, well, we didn't want to do that, but the XYZ entity forced us to do that. I don't have a good feeling for that. A couple of access to Glen Cove Road. Height, that's been brought up over and over again. Ambiguous items like where will the berm actually be along Glen Cove to protect our subdivision. I listened and wrote notes and listened again, and I guess from Tim's description, I still don't know. And the other issue which was just brought up, we've seen things in the communities around us, Oconomowoc, Heartland, Waukesha, where we start out with what's nice-looking multifamily housing, and then suddenly when everybody goes for permits and other things, oh, by the way, can you add some workforce housing or low-income housing? One more time, it's a slippery slope, and I'm getting less and less comfortable with how it's going, from where it started with us in the first meeting to where I see it going now. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right, thank you. Then we'll close the citizens' comment section of the meeting, and we'll move on to approval of the minutes of February 23rd. There is, anybody have any corrections or comments?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from February 23rd.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Item 6, to my knowledge, Dan, there's no 2020 budget amendments and no 2021 budget amendments?
Correct.
So we're moving down to accounts payable and payroll.
For accounts payable, I make a motion to approve payments of checks 64510 through 64513 and checks 64519 through 64550 in the amount of $108,290.04. And for payroll, a motion to approve the payrolls dated March 5th, 2021 in the amount of $22,667.79.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable and payroll as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move down to communications.
Might actually make a motion to take item 9A out of order.
I'll second.
Sure. Yeah, that's Pat. So we'll take 9A out of order. That's a nomination for Pat Frigo to be appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I believe you all have your residence, or his resume in front of us.
Can you take a vote on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor of taking item 9 out of order, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Now we're on Pat Frigo. Pat's a relatively long-term resident of the town. He's recently retired. His resume's here. I feel he'd be a nice addition to the Zoning Board of Appeals. He'd be alternate number 2. This board does not meet that often, but for some reason, we have difficulty making quorums, and having a second alternate would be very helpful. And Pat's in the audience if anybody has any questions for Pat.
He's got a very impressive resume. I think he's very well qualified. I think he's a good candidate, and I fully support that. So I make a motion that we approve appointing Pat Frigo to the Board of Appeals as alternate number 2.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to appoint Pat Frigo to the alternate number 2 position on the Board of Appeals. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Frigo.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
helping, Pat.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah,
We agree.
it is. And I think we have a meeting coming up in April, Dan?
March 25th.
March 25th. That'll be your first meeting. So, okay. Now, if everything else stays in place, we'll go to item 7, communications, for discussion and possible action. There is one item here that I'd like to address first, and that's a letter to the town regarding the Canary residents? Carini residents. It'll be part of the public record. Thomas Schrader is upset and has been for quite a while. He's presented to the board. It's really a county lakeshore zoning issue. And he did comment that he's still upset. That the structure that was built next to him does not comply with county codes, state codes, or town codes. So it's part of the record. And And then Waukesha County Board of Adjustment meeting is on March 10th, 2021. That's tomorrow at 6:30. Item 7A, there's an after-the-fact variance request, but for William Helquist Jr. to permit an existing patio 142 feet from Pewaukee Lake exceeding the county shoreline ordinance restriction of 150 feet. Helquist is on Maple Avenue, just east of the,
Lewis
east-
Avenue? He's on Lewis Avenue.
Helquist?
Yes. This one's on Lewis Avenue.
Oh, this is the Helquist on Lewis Avenue. Okay, yeah, okay, he's on Lewis Avenue. Oh, I know where he's at, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the reason that these are here as communications for discussion and possible action, I don't think any board member, feels that we have jurisdiction over this. That is obviously a county issue. It's really more for awareness of the citizens to know that there's a hearing tomorrow night on these two properties, that they're after the facts variance requests. And for more information, you can go to the Park and Planning page on the website for Waukesha County. But it's really just more for awareness. I don't think that we have a say or really have any power in this. I think the only thing that we can do is maybe ask the county what their processes or procedures are. If we start seeing a lot of these after the facts, variances, I understand that there's a potential for human error or, other process, improvements that could be done to make sure that, people spend a lot of time to come up with these rules and these regulations. And yes, sometimes people do things, after the fact or do things and don't necessarily ask for permission and get caught later. But, especially for this one, I received a call on this one from the neighbors. I know that when you read the packet, he says that the neighbors are in favor of this, but the neighbors aren't. Some of the neighbors indicated to me that they weren't in favor of this, so I suggested that they attend the hearing tomorrow evening and voice their displeasure with it.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at after the fact variance requests. And variances are this is a totally self-created variance. When we had shoreline zoning, we would not grant this.
Right, and if you read the staff report is not recommending granting this variance in this case,
Yeah.
which is a good thing in my opinion, but it's just for communication, just so, and awareness, so people know about that one. So if anybody else has any other comments on that item, I think we can move on to item B.
Which is the same thing.
Yeah, so it's an after-the-fact variance request for 227 Investments LLC. It's the Golden Anchor property where Carl Tomich is building a home, Westridge Building. This one's a little bit worse than it seems. This one is a height variance. They processed the application incorrectly as a flat roof. He should only have been allowed 35 feet in height, but they processed it as a pitch roof, which is 42 feet. He's currently at 39 feet, so he's asking for 4 feet increase in height. So it's not necessarily as egregious, but it's just, again, following the rules and, making sure that people tighten up their processes and make sure that, things get caught ahead of time so that, they can't come back and say, well, we're already in our construction project. We've ordered, $300,000 worth of materials and, it's going to be a hardship to us.
Well, with all due respect, Ed, it's a big variance for the neighbors that have a property that's 10% higher than the rule allows. I'm not diminishing your comments, but it's a big deal.
Well, I know
It's a big error by the county.
I don't disagree.
I'll go further. Tomich has built several homes in the lake, in the town. I believe, is he a resident of the town?
Yes.
So he's a resident of the town. He's built several other homes in the town. He bought the Kim Bar property, to my knowledge, so he's gonna build on that. I find it hard to believe that this was just a inadvertent error of, he has architects and he has people that know the ordinance, and the ordinance hasn't changed. Hard part is, what do you do about it? It's a county call, yeah.
Yeah, but as the county, has taken over shoreland and as the county, has more say in some other things on the docket of the town, I just think that, we need to, make sure that we talk to the county about tightening up their processes, because we can't have these kind of errors and after the fact, things happening. I mean, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, disheartening as a board member and somebody who's, seen kind of what's happened to our town since, counties taken over the shoreline zoning. I mean, I think, those who've spent time on the lake over the last 5-6 years have kind of seen how, the changes to the lake and what the county is allowing folks to build is really kind of changing the character of Pewaukee Lake.
Any other comments? Then there's, Dan, you want to bring us up to date on Park and Recreation Facilities Master Plan update?
Yes, so in your packet, you received what the latest version of the master plan looks like. This needs to be, these should be updated every 5 years. The last time it was updated was in 2013. That took us through 2018. This is important when it comes to our impact fees. We need to update that study to see where the needs are in the town for parks and facilities, and then make sure that, we're spending those dollars in the appropriate places. I'm sure you guys are all aware of this study or been brought into this at some point or another. So what Ron and I had discussed doing is coming up with a work group made up of citizens, preferably all around the town of Delafield, to work on trying to gather data that we can use to try and pinpoint what the needs of the town are as far as our parks go, what areas in the town might be better suited to spend those dollars. So this is more of just an FYI for the board at this point, but if you guys have any input, or maybe even have some people in the community that you think might be interested in joining and working with me, that would be a great help, so.
Yeah, this is not a committee. This is just a work group. It's similar to the work group that we put together for the website, where, where we had citizens come together, work, and once the project was done and up and running, it was disbanded. So it's not a forever
It's a
monthly.
work group. They'd
Yeah.
report to me, and I would report directly to you, so.
Exactly.
Yes.
I think
Dan, do you feel like with our new website, are people signing up to receive emails? I mean, what's going to make this successful is hearing people's opinions. How are we going to let people know we want to know their opinion? I mean,
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
think surveys are great. I hesitate to do mail surveys
Right.
because the response rate is anywhere from like 5 to 10%, maybe.
Right.
I believe, I can't see the amount of subscribers that we get, but I know that I'm getting responses when I send out agendas, so I know that there are people subscribing. I'm sure many of these folks out here are subscribing to the agenda alerts. So it's gonna be building that. It's also gonna be using Facebook. We have over 400 followers on that too, so I'm using the tools we have. But I think you're right, the best way to get information is gonna be digitally. It's not gonna be,
Yeah, and we're in much better position today than we were a year ago to do that.
Yeah, and I think, with even some of the big issues that have come up with the town, we got the website implemented in time where, the skate park issue, or even some of the land use issues and things have kind of grown our base for people following the town, which is good. So, I think we'll have some of those avenues better suited for this type of, a digital survey monkey or something like that, so.
with the upcoming election, is there an opportunity at any of the sites to encourage people to sign up for those email alerts?
Yep.
Or,
Yep, and we've done that in the past. I implemented the same website about 8 years ago in another community where we actually made up little cards where you could choose what things you'd want to follow and
Okay.
they'd give us their email address and we'd just sign them up for them.
oh, okay.
So we can do slips like that, just quarter sheets of paper or something like that, so.
Well, it's good timing and, for this, because
Yeah,
generally you get out and, talk to a lot of people, which is difficult right now.
preferably you'd want to do it on a higher turnout. Unfortunately, the in-person
Right.
turnout in November was pretty bleak because of
Yeah.
all the mail-in. It was still high, but I think this April, people are gonna start showing up to polling locations a little more, so I think we can get some people that way.
That'd be great.
Great. If there's no other
Well,
discussions.
I know that the challenge of the Park and Rec Commission, you know, because they had started working on this before it was disbanded, was always, how are we gonna get the feedback? How are we gonna do the surveys? So, you know, that's definitely something that they struggled with, whether they do mail or digital. I mean, I had always pushed for a digital solution. So I think, you know, if we can get a work group and get this thing updated, that'd be a good thing.
Yeah, and I would think we could call Kara at the Freeman and get an article done so we could get some press on it, directing them to the website. So we need some bodies. So please keep that in mind. Okay, announcements and planning items. A joint public hearing and planning commission is Tuesday, March 16th at 6:30. I believe that there's a plan commission scheduled for the 23rd after that, Dan? Is that,
Yeah, I put to be determined, but,
Yeah.
I think the plan was to have.
that's the plan with, and the concept was that you don't want to go, and it was Dan and I talking and confirmed later with Ed, that you don't want to go from the public hearing is typically into a plan commission meeting. You want to give some time for the commissioners to think and absorb and consider the comments at the public hearing. So we'll have the public hearing, we'll close the public hearing, we'll have the plan commission meeting on the 23rd, which is a week later, which necessitates moving the board meeting, the second board meeting in March back to the 30th of March. So it all still fits. But I think that gives us, I think everybody's more comfortable with listening to the public hearing, getting their responses, and then sleeping on it for a week and considering it and doing any other additional research before we come back as a group and discuss it. So that was why, and Kevin Fitzgerald's in agreement with that. So the Plan Commission right now is scheduled for the public hearing on the 16th, the Plan Commission on the 23rd, and the second meeting of Town Hall, or the Town Board is on the 30th.
So will the public hearing, the meeting on the 16th will be televised or?
Oh,
on
very
YouTube?
good point, yeah. It'll be, I believe it's a Teams meeting, and you can call in on a conference call. This room will be limited, I believe, to 25 people. I believe the lobby will be limited to maybe 7 or 9, whatever social distance requirements are met. If people want to speak, they could wait outside, and we would encourage people who do speak to rotate through, and we'll have someone counting the number of people at the door. But more importantly, if you could possibly be comfortable doing it on the Teams meeting or over the phone, you'll have complete freedom to ask questions. You'll have your 3 minutes to talk. It's not a dialogue. It's not an interaction with the Plan Commission. You talk, we listen, we take notes. So good point. And all of that's, is that already posted on the website?
Yeah, it's on the homepage of.
It's already posted, so the whole link's already out there.
And Dan, will there be a mechanism that folks could, for lack of a better term, chat or write a note into Teams that would be put into the record then as well?
Teams has an area on the right where they can ask questions if, their audio's not working or something to that regard.
They could make a statement typing it, or you will allow audio from Teams in for people?
Well, we
so
have to be somewhat careful because it's a public hearing.
Right.
Each resident gets one opportunity to speak. You can't speak and then come back and raise 10 questions later on. So each resident who chooses to will have one opportunity to speak for 3 minutes.
And if they don't want to speak, they're certainly welcome to provide written comment
Yeah.
to the Plan Commission and the board also.
And we will read it into the record. Yeah.
Well, I hesitate that that's not the precedent we've set where we read
Oh,
every email into the record, and
Okay.
I only say that because
Well, that's true, that's
if
true.
we did that last time, we would have been reading until 4 AM. So, but I do.
Not me.
But perhaps it'll just be added
Yeah, so what
to
I'll
the,
do,
whatever the notes for the meeting are.
Yep.
Not, they might not be read live, but
we can attach them to the minutes, and I always forward any email I get that's written to the board and the plan commission to the plan commission so
Sure.
that you guys can review it before the meeting. And it may be good to have a comment just saying we've received so many emails for or against the issue, so. Otherwise, it could be a long-winded
No, we don't
read.
want that. Yeah. We want every citizen who wants to express their opinion to have the opportunity to express their opinion.
And there will be a facilitator in the Teams meeting similar to the January meeting, where they will pick, the next person in line in a queue, and then those people will speak. So it won't be a free-for-all, it'll be planned nicely.
Great.
so.
Okay, anything else? If not, we do a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Thanks for letting us speak, appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete. That's what the new parliamentary
Sure, I'll second.
procedures allow.
Christie
Second.
seconded it. Aye.
All those in favor say aye. We're adjourned. We give this to Dan?